Alright, I'm just going to give you a mic, Kane, because I just realised you don't have one. So I'll pass the mics down so everyone can see. So thank you very, very much for joining us today. Now, the title of the panel is Horror Generations. So how do you think the world of horror has developed and changed in the last kind of 2 decades? Because it's changing constantly, isn't it?
Yes.
So what do you think? What do you think are the main drivers behind this change? They're already fighting.
Well, it always changes, which is good for us working actors to be surprised by new scripts and concepts. You know, right now I think horror is doing a big boom, particularly with the advent of Netflix and Amazon doing scripted TV series. So there's more opportunities for us. You know, we're all from different parts of the world, so our paths always circles. Right, Kane? You know, I still don't like you, man, right? You got that, right?
I know that.
I hate your ass.
So let me ask you something though, Tony.
No, what is it? Correct.
Have you ever killed me in a movie?
Now you know damn well.
I don't think so.
I haven't had the opportunity, no. Have you ever killed me in real life?
No.
I don't think so.
Good point.
Okay, I think this is turning into a fight. We're getting slightly worried. But in terms of the actual genre, I mean, you mentioned there Netflix, you mentioned the video on demand marketplace. There is also the other side of it now in terms of the actual technology that people can use, in terms of cameras you can buy. It's all kind of become very easy to purchase now, whereas go back 20 years ago, you couldn't really start a studio unless you had millions and millions of pounds. Now you can make a movie with next to no budget at all. How much of an effect do you think that's had for you as not just actors but also in the horror industry as well? Because there's a lot more projects now coming up.
Well, I've done like the bigger budget and then lower budget, and I like doing independent films only because they're more creative. They have to do practical effects and not so much CGI, and it's fun to work on both, but I like independent films more.
Is there any particular reason why you would like that? Is it because you think there's more of a spirit in independent film than?
Yes.
Pardon the pun. But do you think there's more of a spirit in that than when you do an independent film or not?
There's more spirit when you do an independent film. You know the director is loving what he's doing, and it's a dream of his. And he's fulfilling it, hopefully moving on with everything, and they give you interesting characters too, a lot of times. Ones you've never played in maybe a bigger budget film.
And what the rest of you think about that in terms of independent films versus kind of major Hollywood production films? Your thoughts on that and how...
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
We had said that in terms of major Hollywood films, and they essentially prefer to do independent films because there's more of a spirit in what the director is giving, and this is his passion project essentially.
I'm sorry, what's your question?
So which do you prefer?
Which do I prefer? I prefer the one that's going to pay my bills. But I think for even if it's a studio film or an independent film, I think it's always the inception is always somebody's baby, and to be able to bring it to life is part of the gift of our job. But I think one of the things that I've noticed is the practical effects have sort of come full circle, right? You look at something like Evil Dead, where most of the effects are practical effects, and now everything is CGI. And then when we did the show, we were doing a combination of practical effects and a lot of CGI and special effects. And so you kind of have, it's all there, and it forces you to really act, because I would go to work and I would look at X marks. That's the axe coming at you, that's the monster, that's the baby you have to save, and that's the bus that's gonna hit you. You ready? Go. And so it's something that they don't really show you in acting school, is to use your imagination, but you never really use the X. So the X marks the spot.
Quite literally, yeah, I guess. In terms then, do you think, for all of you then, because you've all done different kind of generations of horror films and you're all still going as well, so is that the biggest change that you've seen? Is it's gone from practical right the way through to now just following that X? And does that, for you it changes your performance because you said you have to focus more on that and use your imagination more. How about the rest of you? Do you think you have to now work more with your mind and work more on that? Focusing on the X, as it were.
Well, for me, first of all, before we get into that, there was a good example of how it is to work on a big budget film as opposed to a smaller budget, where when you're in prosthetics, like I've been so much, typically, once the prosthetics are glued on, you don't take it off till the end of the shooting day. And that's how it has always been with all the Friday movies I did and the Hatchet films and whatever else. But there was one case where I did a big Warner Brothers movie called Nothing But Trouble. And it wasn't a very successful movie, but it had an amazing cast. Chevy Chase, John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, Demi Moore. So it had a great cast, but it was a big budget movie. And I was doubling Dan Aykroyd as one of his characters in the makeup. So I was a character called Bobo, if anybody knows that movie. It was kind of a giant fat baby with a diaper and galoshes. And I had to put the whole suit on and glue the head on and the face. And the first day on the set, we broke for lunch and the makeup effects guy said, "Come on, let's go, we'll get that off you so you can eat." I was like, "What? You're gonna take the makeup off at lunch?" And they unglued everything, let me eat properly, and then started the makeup process again. That's the big difference for me working on a big studio film as opposed to a smaller budget. They're both enjoyable, but you just get kind of spoiled with the big budget thing.
Yeah, but then it's like going in a pool that's cold and then having to go back with wet swim trunks. It's like, oh, I gotta do it again. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how that figures into it, but okay. It's exactly like wearing wet swim trunks. But anyway, I know what she's saying. It's almost counterproductive sometimes, because with that character I wasn't violent, but almost all the characters that I play are extremely violent. So by the time, 10 hours into a shooting day and I've had the stuff glued on me all day, I'm pretty ready to be violent, so it comes pretty easily. But anyway.
Yeah, they didn't take it off for me to eat on Evil Dead. They also took my fingers away. In season 3, they gave me extra long fingers, and each hand required an hour of putting it on. So you can use your imagination or not, but once those hands went on, I really couldn't use my fingers to do anything. So it was a rough day. I couldn't eat, couldn't do a lot of other things either.
What are you alluding to?
Just the things that we do to make horror films good, the suffering that goes on. You know what I mean?
Yes, is the answer to that. I didn't really. But Katherine, when you did Ginger Snaps, now at the time that the film came out, it was credited as kind of reinventing the werewolf genre a bit and giving it a new lease of life. What was that like to receive that credit for you, and how aware of you were you when you first did the film that it was making this change?
No one watched it for like 2 years, right? I really loved the script, and Emily, who plays my sister Bridget, loved the script, and all the crew and everyone loved the script, but we honestly didn't think anyone was really gonna watch this. We're like, this is weird werewolf shit. Werewolves weren't cool yet, this whole sort of birthing of the horror genre and especially creature stuff and werewolf stuff, vampire stuff hadn't happened. Twilight hadn't happened yet. None of that had happened yet. So it was a weird thing for us to do, and we didn't know if anyone else would like it. We loved it, and we were into it, but we weren't sure who else would. I was 17 at the time. I was not exactly an expert on like werewolf movies.